Welcome to the 700 Club. Out of control chaos. Democrats in a shouting match in last night's debate in South Carolina. The candidates tore into front-running Bernie Sanders, hoping to keep his lead from becoming a runaway train. The big question raised in the fury, will Bernie help or hurt the Democrats in November? Charlene Ariel has that story.
With the South Carolina primary and Super Tuesday just days away, the Democratic candidates took aim at frontrunner Bernie Sanders, targeting his big spending policies and their belief that he can't beat Donald Trump in the general election.
Vladimir Putin thinks that Donald Trump should be president of the United States, and that's why Russia is helping you get elected.
Sanders also defending comments he has made praising Cuban dictator Fidel Castro.
Of course you have a dictatorship in Cuba. What I said is what Barack Obama said in terms of Cuba, that Cuba made progress on education. Yes, I think, really? Really?
Senator Elizabeth Warren once again challenged Mayor Michael Bloomberg on his treatment of women, this time pointing to allegations that he urged a female employee to have an abortion.
At least I didn't have a boss who said to me, kill it. The way that Mayor Bloomberg alleged to have said to one of his pregnant employees.
Bloomberg denied ever making that comment, but did apologize for past offensive statements in an effort to put the issue behind him.
Probably wrong to make the jokes. I don't remember what they were, so I assume if it bothered them, I was wrong, and I apologize. I'm sorry for that.
At times, it appeared the moderators lost control, with the candidates speaking over one another. Sanders also hit hard on how he'll pay for his big spending plans, like Medicare for All, the Green New Deal, and free college tuition.
No, the math does not add up. In fact, just on 60 Minutes this weekend, he said he wasn't going to rattle through the nickels and the dimes. Well, let me tell you how many nickels and dimes we're talking about. Nearly $60 trillion. Do you know how much that is for all of his programs? That is 3 times the American economy, not the federal government, the entire American economy.
Former South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg, second behind Sanders in delegates, made the case that if Sanders wins the nomination, Democrats will be the big losers in November.
I'll tell you exactly what it adds up to. It adds up to 4 more years of Donald Trump, Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House, and the inability to get the Senate into Democratic hands.
Asked about Middle East peace, Sanders said the U.S. should reach out to both Palestinians and the Israelis and bashed Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
You have a reactionary racist who is now running that country.
Former Vice President Joe Biden, who performed poorly in Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada, has called the upcoming South Carolina primary his firewall because of the support of black voters.
If you don't win South Carolina, will you continue in this race?
I will win South Carolina.
With all the shouting, it's not clear exactly who won Tuesday night's debate, but it's the last one before Super Tuesday, with more than 30% of the delegates up for grabs. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
What's it said, when your enemy is killing himself, don't interfere? Well, they sure are beating each other up. Trump won't have much work to do because they've already done it for him. Well, in other news, the CDC is telling Americans to get ready. The coronavirus will hit America, and it could be bad. Ephraim Graham has more on that story.
Pat, President Donald Trump will hold a news conference at 6 this evening on the coronavirus with officials from the Centers for Disease Control. This comes as the CDC is warning Americans to prepare for the spread of the virus in this country, and it could lead to severe disruptions.
We are asking the American public to work with us to prepare in the expectation that this could be bad. We really want to prepare the American public for the possibility that their lives will be disrupted because of this pandemic.
This comes as the virus is still spreading, now up to at least 8 nations in Europe. Iran has raised its death toll to 19. And the deputy health minister seen in this video looked sick in a news conference. He tested positive for the new virus. Here in the U.S., this 3M factory in South Dakota is making masks and respirators that can help protect people from the disease, but they can't keep up with the demand. The stock market took another plunge on the latest news, dropping nearly 900 points Tuesday, losing $1.7 trillion in value over the last 2 days. Be sure to stay with CBN News for the latest on the coronavirus as we provide updates throughout the day on the CBN News Channel and at cbnnews.com. Pat?
Well, the problem with this coronavirus is not so much that it's here, but because China is shut down, so many parts that are used in our manufacturing come out of China. And if that shuts down, it means whole assembly lines are shut down with various manufacturing plants. And of course, Apple took a big hit because they weren't selling as much as they thought they would in China. So that's why the market went down. And it was a big hit for those who had some of these high-flying stocks. Fortunately, yours truly was in a different part of the market, which is gold, and gold has gone up very nicely.
Wow. How long do you think this downturn is going to last?
Oh, it'll go on for months. And of course, once you take away the manufacturing from these plants, then it'll take a long time to restart these things. And I don't know if they've had to lay off personnel or what it is, but it's a long slog. This is not a fun thing for the United States economy. Ephraim.
Pat, in Washington, the Senate voted on two major big pieces of pro-life legislation Tuesday. Neither received the 60 votes needed to pass, but just bringing them to the floor was a big win. CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson explains why.
In this heated election year, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell wants to put each senator on the record for what Republicans say are extreme views on abortion.
They're trying to defend something that's fundamentally indefensible.
Senator Ben Sasse tells CBN News his Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act does exactly that.
This bill is really simple. It says that if a baby survives an abortion, she has a fighting chance at life, and we have the obligation to make sure she gets the same care that any other baby would get at that gestational stage.
And is needed for this reason.
Right now, all that's really prohibited is if a baby survives an abortion, you can't take a pillow and put it over her face and smother her to death, but you can walk away from her and put her on a cart and wheel her down a hallway and put her in a closet and leave her to die of exposure over 6 or 8 or 10 hours.
But Democrat Minority Leader Chuck Schumer tells CBN News this law already exists and calls the bills extreme and dishonest.
On the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act, Senator Sasse argues this is needed because under the current law, while you can't outright kill a baby breathing outside the womb, you can neglect it. What is your response?
We voted on this before. It was defeated. And there's a law in 2002 that is on the books, current law, that covers everything Sasse is talking about. It's a play to the hard right base. The American people don't support it.
3 Democrats joined Republicans to vote on the bill that protects babies born alive after botched abortions. Democrats Joe Manchin and Bob Casey also joined most Republicans on the bill prohibiting abortions after 5 months of pregnancy. But Republicans Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski did not.
We know at 20 weeks the science is there, if not earlier, that there's the pain capability of a fetus.
Republicans believe bringing Democrats out in the open on abortion will help them in 2020. Democrats believe these votes cater to the GOP's hard right base and argue the American people will see through that. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Well, we now turn to one of the most dangerous countries in the world for Christians, where an unprecedented move of God is taking place. What country? Iran, where Muslims fed up with Islam are becoming followers of Jesus Christ in record numbers. Recently, a group of new converts secretly left the country to get baptized. CBN's George Thomas was there and brings us these amazing moments from that marvelous event.
On a recent Thursday afternoon, 20 Iranians took a flight from their country's main international airport in the capital city of Tehran and flew to an undisclosed city. The journey was filled with a lot of danger, but each one of them was willing to take the risk for the chance to experience a life-transforming moment. For security reasons, we have concealed their identities. We have changed their names and their voices. One by one, 20 Iranians descended the steps of this indoor swimming pool. Men, women, young adults, teenagers, and a 7-year-old girl. In the water waiting to baptize them, fellow Iranians Amir and Sasan, who had escaped persecution in their homeland.
Most of the people at this gathering are artists, musicians, some are TV producers. They are very educated people. They are specialists from different fields of Iranian society.
27-year-old aspiring actor Reza among those getting submerged.
I was waiting for this day for a long time. My heart was beating so fast with excitement.
Reza had a difficult childhood. His uncle raped him when he was 13. The traumatic experience sent him down a path of raping and abusing numerous girls.
I was a bad person, a very bad person. I tried to change for a few days, 3, 4, 5 days, but after that I was worse than before.
A friend gave him a Bible and told him about finding healing and forgiveness in Jesus Christ.
I was expecting to be in hell as punishment for all the things I had done. Instead, God forgave me. I was expecting fire, but God gave me living water and a new life.
Reza told CBN News that today was an important part of his healing journey.
I felt the presence and unconditional love of Christ that I was always thirsty for.
25-year-old Miriam was joined in the pool by her sister and brother.
This is an amazing day for us. It's really nice that we are all together as siblings.
All 20 Iranians were once Muslim. Many, like Layla, decided to follow Jesus Christ after watching Mohabbat TV, one of the most popular Christian satellite channels in Iran.
I grew in my faith watching Mohabbat TV. I didn't know any other Christian person. I would call the TV hotline and phone counselors would pray for me. This is how I grew in my faith.
Mike Ansari, an Iranian by birth, is director of operations at Mohabbat TV.
20 people who have joined us in their journey of faith from beginning, watching Mohabbat TV, and then growing and giving their heart to Christ, and then coming here and saying, I would like to be baptized. I would like to be sent out. Give me more. It is an anointed moment that words cannot describe.
Ansari says Christianity is growing fastest in his native land than in any other country of the world. More women are coming to Christ than men. As a result, women are now in key leadership positions within Iran's underground church movement. 40-year-old Azar is one of them. She used to follow the laws and tenets of Islam to a T.
I was a very strong Muslim, a very devout follower from a young age. I prayed every day to Muhammad. I wore the full hijab. I didn't want any man to ever see my face. I never wanted to cause a man to sin by looking at my body.
Still, Azar says 30 years of devotion to Islam left her restless. Like many women in Iranian society, she felt less valuable and on the edge of despair.
I always questioned why Muhammad gave us a religion to follow that didn't allow us to be free and happy as women. There were so many restrictions on what we can and cannot do.
11 years ago, she watched a movie on the life of Christ, and she was changed.
I realized that I was following a lie, that Islam was a lie. And at times, I felt those 30 years I spent being Muslim were wasted. But Jesus said he would restore those lost years.
Azar now runs a network of secret underground home fellowships.
Because we don't have a church to gather in, we have to keep our groups small. Not more than 5 or 6 people. We constantly change days, times, and locations to avoid getting caught.
Azar watches Sasan regularly on Mohabbat TV. When he's not busy baptizing fellow countrymen, Sasan is co-hosting a popular show on the channel showing Iranian Christians how to operate house churches and spread the gospel inside the Islamic country.
It's one of the greatest resources we can offer the church inside Iran, a church that doesn't have any access to any educational institutions, any theological schools, any church buildings, established Christian institutions. Through these programs, we are mobilizing and resourcing the house church movement in Iran.
Mohabbat also has a virtual church platform, giving undercover Christians the opportunity to connect with others scattered around the country in a safe and secure environment.
We're realizing that a lot of isolated believers in Iran, they do not have any chance to have fellowship with anybody else. So we're using the virtual church as a bridge.
Shema is a Mohabbat TV phone counselor. She says many recent callers to the channel expressed anger with Iran's government leaders.
People blame the regime for all their problems because they know the country is wealthy. We have oil and other riches, but the government doesn't care about people suffering, and they are fed up.
The Iranians shared with me just how devastating the sanctions have been for their lives. More than a year after the Trump administration levied crippling sanctions on the Islamic Republic, today the nation is in deep recession, there's high inflation, and the country has lost most of its value in its currency. After a few days of Bible training, worship, and prayer, the 20 Christians headed back home to Iran, carrying with them Bibles, Christian literature, and hundreds of micro SD cards containing evangelistic material used to share hope and the love of Jesus Christ during these uncertain times. They knew it was a risky mission, but worth it.
Hopefully, when you see these images of people getting baptized and hear their testimonies, you are drawn to pray for Iran and the whole Islamic world, because they are lost and need Jesus.
George Thomas, CBN News, somewhere in the Middle East.
Thanks, George. I am so heartened by what's happening in Iran. Those people are hungry for God. They hate the mullahs, the people who run their country. It is a theocratic dictatorship of a very, very small number of mullahs that are controlling Iran. And, you know, they threw out the Shah because of Savak and some of the abuses of the secret police. But they brought in the Ayatollah Khomeini, and it's just been a nightmare ever since. But those people hate the mullahs, and the young people are ready to revolt, so we ought to do everything to pray for those people in Iran. Unfortunately, when the president puts sanctions on the government of Iran, trying to bring it into heel, it's also bringing pain to the Christians. And that's an unfortunate byproduct of these problems. But if you ever want to pray for something, pray for an uprising in Iran. And I believe, very frankly, that that little group of theocrats at the top of those mullahs are vulnerable. And I think if there's any kind of an uprising, we should do everything we can to support it with not only our prayers, but with material and with the necessary weapons to make it happen. And I think the assassination of Soleimani was a good step in the right direction.